Hi, I'm Chuck Gibson. This is Loveland Beacon Talks. Today we are joined by Tori Morrison, founder of the Ben Morrison Fund, advocating for mental wellness. She began this journey after suicide claimed the life of her son Ben. In her ongoing efforts to bring hope and encouragement to young people, Tori recently launched the new initiative Ben'sWay at Loveland High School. Along with Tori, Kate Jackson joins us today to tell us how the Ben'sWay initiative will shine a light on kindness and goodness in action, encouraging hope within our young people. Kate is a member of the Ben Morrison Fund board. It is my pleasure to welcome Kate Jackson and Tori Morrison to Loveland Beacon Talks. Welcome, Tori Morrison, and along with you today, joining us on Loveland Beacon Talks, is Kate Jackson, a member of the board for, officially the board is the Ben Morrison Fund.
Correct.
Board. But what we're here to talk about specifically today, Tori and Kate, thank you for joining us as well, is Ben'sWay.
Correct.
So, which launched just, now did you officially launch, I know you officially launched at Loveland High School.
Correct, yes.
Ben'sWay, but did you officially launch right at the start?
Beginning of September.
Okay, I was going to say, I didn't know if it was like right at the end of August or if it was actually into September when you had that launch event. Well, so before we get into all of that and how the launch went, so what is Ben'sWay and how did you come up with Ben'sWay?
So Ben'sWay, we found, Kate has a story and she knows personally more Ben'sWay, but Ben'sWay came about from reading all of the scholarship applications the last 3 years. And I learned a lot of things about Ben that I didn't know. And it's funny because when I shared them with my friends and things, they knew, like they had seen it, but they would see Ben in different aspects than me. Obviously, I'm a parent, you know. And so Ben'sWay was just the ability to include everyone, the ability to help out the underclassmen, the ability to help with the special needs kids. He always made everyone feel as if they were part of the team. There was none of this, we're the upperclassmen, we don't associate with the underclassmen. You know, I always like to, one of the essays said this, and it's so true, he was the first one to knock you down, but also the first one to then turn around and give you a hand and pull you back up.
Yeah. Well, he had the opportunity to knock people down
on the football
field.
Yes.
So I just want, for listeners that might not know, I want to clarify, he wasn't knocking people, like he wasn't
knocking people down in the hallways, no.
Knocking books out of their hand and throwing them on the floor.
Not that we know of, no.
That story hasn't come out in a...
No, incidentally enough, there was a story about him stealing someone's lunch in middle school. It ended up being one of his best friends, but yeah. So he was a little rotten.
That's why he stole the lunch. He was just trying to get to know him.
That's exactly right. He just wanted to get to know the kid. Yeah, but so we started reading a lot of these things, and Kate is really the one who came up with the idea for this. You know, she said the kids now at the high school are not going to know Ben. There's a few that had older siblings that know his name, you know, but for the most part, the kids don't know him. And she said, we need some way to continue. We'll still do the scholarship. We just have different criteria that they have to write about now. They don't write about Ben anymore. And Kate was like, we need some way to recognize this. And I'll let her tell you the story about the picture she found.
Well, there's two reasons that Ben'sWay came about. When we were going through pictures for the golf outing to put on the holes in the golf outing, we found a picture of my son, Bailey Jackson, played football with Ben, and we found a picture of Bailey's, as a freshman, his very first varsity game, dressed for varsity, over to the side as the young freshman on the field,
right.
And the only varsity player that was over comforting him was Ben. And we didn't know this had happened at the time. This was going back through pictures, finding this out, and it was extremely emotional for Tori and I to discover that side of Ben, and turned into a great conversation with my son.
Yeah.
But as well as that, the Ben Morrison Fund was able to sponsor a petting zoo at the high school last year. And during the petting zoo, a couple of the board members stayed just to make sure that it went smoothly. And I witnessed a student at the high school spending his entire time at the petting zoo with a special needs child, making sure that they enjoyed their time with the animals as opposed to being on his phone, playing with his friends, eating lunch.
Even playing with the animals himself.
Correct. He spent his entire time, and I said, things like this need to be recognized. This child needs to be recognized for this. And kind of the two things put together between the scholarships no longer being written about Ben and wanting to recognize children that reminded me of Ben, Ben'sWay came to fruition.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to back up just for a second because I might have been a little remiss as we introduced the beginning of this to say, well, of course, Ben is Ben Morrison. For the listeners, that's why Tori Morrison here is with us here right now, because Tori is Ben's mom. And sadly, Ben took his own life.
Yes.
And thus began, first off, the Ben Morrison Fund. And what we're talking about today is the Ben'sWay program, which, as I said, or as you told us, launched at Loveland High School. And we'll get into some things beyond that. But so what will as you've described what Ben'sWay is and where the idea came from, Kate, thank you for sharing that piece of the story. That's really, and it's so cool that you found that picture of Ben with your son, and I'm going to go blank, Bailey. I want to say Blake. So Bailey, but that's so cool. That you
it's
found
enlarged on my desk.
It should be. We're not sitting at your desk, so I don't get to see it, but it better be. So thanks for sharing that piece and what it came to. But what the Ben'sWay program? What happens?
So we have 5. Kate and I called them spies.
I love that.
I have a wonderful person on my board, Megan Hogan, who does all of my media press releases and work like that, and so she turned it into Kind Eyes.
Kind Eyes from the Spies.
Yes. Spies.
We're going with
spies.
that.
Yeah. So
well, I like
they are
spies.
looking for kindness. So yeah. So we picked 5 people at the high school, and at Loveland, Kate and I know the people there.
Right.
Kate's son graduated after Ben. So we've both been through the school system. We know the people. So we have picked.
Well, they aren't students, correct?
No, they're. We have a teacher. We have a support staff person. We have an admin. We have an aide.
Yeah.
And then we have, I guess, what you would call like office staff person. So we picked kind of an array of different people.
Well, in today's in today's vernacular, a diverse group.
Yes, a diverse group. Yes, there you go.
People that are staff or whatever.
A diverse group of people because we wanted, we didn't want this to be sports affiliated. The scholarships are sports affiliated. This needed to go across anything, and it needed to be. It can be a freshman that wins. It can be whatever grade they are. So the 5 spies, when they see something happening at school, they have an email address that they can email in, and they tell us what they saw, who it was that they saw do it, and then Kate and I decide if it's, I don't know if you want to say worthy. I don't know what the proper word would be.
Represents.
If it represents Ben'sWay.
So I was going to put words in your mouth. It truly represents Ben'sWay.
Right,
I mean, ultimately the program is Ben'sWay. So they're seeing.
Yes.
So what they're looking for is students, and of course these are the spies who are not students, watching the actions of the students, and when they do something that represents Ben'sWay, they send that information to you.
Correct.
Okay, and then you guys get to decide.
Yes, and so we get to decide then, and then we notify the principal, who does not know who the spies are.
Excellent.
And he will have a stack of the gift cards to be handed out, And the person who is awarded will get this gift card and also receive a little card explaining that they were caught representing Ben'sWay.
Right. I was going to, we have the card here. If you want to read the start of that to give the listeners an idea, the gift card is one thing, and that's
Yes.
a $25 gift card. Correct. But the card that they'll also be handed says, you can.
Hello, friend. We wanted you to know we see you representing Ben'sWay. Ben spoke up for others. He was unselfish, a leader and protector. A young person who led by example and modeled hard work and resilience. Ben treated others with acceptance, kindness, and encouragement. And this is my favorite line. People like you and Ben make the world a better place. Keep it up. This is sponsored by GE Credit Union at Loveland High School. They've provided the funding for the gift cards. And like I said, Megan turns my words beautiful.
Well, you know what? Just hearing you read that, and I didn't receive one, and I'm not a student at any high school, let alone Loveland High School. It still does. Kate,
It's
I know
emotional.
you can feel it immediately.
Yeah. It's hard for me to read it. I get, I have to really, because it is. It's beautiful, and I hope that people I hope it really changes someone's life. I hope that it makes them stop and think. I hope it just lets them know that someone sees them in the world.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. Someone sees them for who they are and for what they have to give to this world.
Right. Well, and you touched on it, Tori, and Kate as well, about, describing the program Ben'sWay. But it's important to, I want to emphasize the fact this isn't Tori Morrison. I'm Ben's mom, and I think Ben was great. This came from, where you began the Ben Morrison Fund, and people filled out, or students at Loveland filled out, the scholarship application, and told their own stories of who Ben Morrison was to them.
Correct.
So that description of Ben, that wasn't Tori, folks, that is not Tori Morrison saying my son was wonderful and great.
No.
In fact, I'm going to give it away. So what did you say Ben was? Wow.
I believe one of the first times I met you, I said he was a little shit. I mean, let's be honest here.
You're not getting beat. She said it.
I mean, he teased me relentlessly. I have a problem with walking and talking at the same time, so I would fall, and he loved to make fun of me. And I found out I was allergic to yeast. I came home one day, and everything that said yeast in the pantry was circled. I mean, this is just the kind of stuff he would do to me, He was funny, He was so funny. And I knew it was all with love that he teased me and did these things, even as mad as I was when I fell and he laughed at me.
Well, and also for the listeners, we are sitting and talking.
Yes, we are. I'm not allowed to walk and talk.
We didn't want Tori taking any tumbles while we were talking.
No, I am truly, I will fall over a curb. I'm trying to find in my notes here. I pulled together a whole bunch of different things that was pulled from the scholarship funds. And
while you're looking for that, folks that are listening, again, and Kate's wearing the Ben Morrison Fund t-shirt. You don't see that because we're just audio right now, but we'll get a photo before we're done that'll go with this.
Awesome.
Kate, that's just what you wanted to hear, isn't it?
I love it.
But anyway, so the Ben Morrison Fund is where it began. And for some reason, talking about allergies or whatever, so my nose is trying to run. That's what everybody needs to hear. Anyway, it began, but this is, as I said to you, Tori, you have been a force in suicide prevention since Ben's passing. And, a lot of people don't want to talk about that still today. We hear it masked as mental health, but the Ben Morrison Fund keeps an awareness. We talked about the 988 initiative. We won't get into that right now. That's not part of this. But I know you've helped support that initiative as well. But But the Ben Morrison Fund makes these kids stop. And, you know, even before the Ben'sWay program launching this year, kids writing those applications had to stop and think about those actions. And, you know, Kate, when we were talking before we went, you know, on air, so to speak, right now, you mentioned the smiles. You got to tell us that again for the listeners. What those stories and when a kid does something and brings a smile.
We just hope that Ben'sWay brings a smile to a face, and when that child is smiling, the child that's looking at that child will then smile, and it becomes contagious. And if we can spread smiles one child at a time, then I feel like we're on our way to doing our mission.
There are studies out there. You can find them. A college did a study, and I'll have the numbers wrong, but let's say they took 100 people. 50, and all 100 suffered from anxiety and depression. 50 of them were given medication, traditional medication. 50 of them were instructed to do acts of kindness. Do you know they exhibited the same outcome from both groups?
I would never have thought that.
The group that had the acts of kindness charge of doing that had the same outcome as the ones who had medication.
Yeah.
So
I guess if you really stop and think about it, so it makes sense. And I should have said I would have thought that. But actually, I guess maybe I was thinking if you're doing acts of kindness, it makes you feel good. That's the bottom line. And so the medicated good makes you feel good too.
Right.
But that's, you know, to me, and I don't like the medication plan. So that's a fake good. But when you're doing something good and you get that, you know, authentic, genuine feeling of goodness, well, of course it makes sense that they would have the same outcome. Yeah.
But it makes you feel even better when it's recognized.
Which is a great point, which is what Ben'sWay is all about.
Yeah.
And right now I wanted to ask you, we've talked about it a little bit, and I know that as we're sitting here recording this on September 20th, that you haven't given that first gift card yet. Still waiting for, you know, whatever pile will come in for you guys to make a decision from. But what is that, you know, how great is that going to be? And, you know, now, so the principal, the way the program works, so you got your 5 spies who are going to remain anonymous. The kids will never know who they are for obvious reasons.
Right.
But the principal will make the presentation of the gift card, letting them know. Are you guys going to get to be there?
So we have arranged that at the last Friday of the month, we will invite anyone who has received one that month to meet us for breakfast before school starts, like in the little atrium area outside the media center in the office. Yeah. And obviously the principal can come if he wants to, but we'll bring donuts. And so that will be our chance to take a picture of the group of them for the month, and also to not kind of single out one at a time, but to show them as a group possibly and recognize them in that way.
Well, how many smiles do you think that's going to generate? Kate's smiling.
At least 2. I know.
Kate smiled first, Tori. She was just slightly ahead of you.
I know. Well, you know, and I hope that generates. I hope someone walking by is like, man, how do I get donuts? How do I get that $25 gift card?
Sure.
And then I hope that sparks the conversation. And I know that the students were all told about Ben'sWay.
Well, I was going to ask, when you did the launch, that wasn't like an assembly and all the kids?
But there was, I don't know if you want me to say it, there was something on the news.
Right.
And so the students were given the opportunity to watch that.
I see. Very good.
And so they know what Ben'sWay is. So we'll see.
And we're helping. Hopefully, we're helping spread the word, you know, with this conversation. And again, thank you both for coming on and talking about this on Loveland Beacon Talks. The reason we didn't bring any Loveland City School District officials to this conversation is because, Tori, this isn't just Loveland. You have at least hopes and plans to move this to schools all around the city.
I do. I would love to see this spread and go to a lot of different schools. I have a couple in mind that I want to start with, like I would consider like a pilot program.
Right.
We need to work out the kinks on our end because it's basically going to have to be something I turn over to them and say, these are the guidelines, but you handle it, because unlike Loveland, where Kate and I know everyone, we were able to handpick our people.
The spies.
To spies, yes. We were able to handpick them. Obviously, at another school, we can't do that.
Right.
So we won't know them. So I'm going to have to find someone I trust and give them the guidelines and ask them to follow them and hope that they do. And
I was going to add, when you said, because that's a tough situation in and of itself, finding the person that you say, okay, I know that they're going to carry this program forward properly. I mean, how do you...
well, fortunately, with all of the things that we've been doing with the mental health games, I have met quite a few people at other schools.
Okay, yeah.
And so that's why I have kind of a mind of who I would start with, because I've already developed a relationship with a couple of people.
Perfect.
By doing these mental health games. And I feel that the two that I have in mind, I feel like that they would, handle it the proper way and go forward with it. And, that's really, Kate and I discuss this all the time. That's my biggest downfall, is letting something go. I have a really hard time taking my hands off of something, and I will have to do that with this, right? I will have to turn it over to them and hope that they do it the way it's supposed to be done, and that's tough for me.
Well, I just can't imagine that somebody wouldn't see the benefits of doing it the way that we intend it to be done, and
Doing it Tori's way?
Tori's way.
Ben'sWay, Tori's way. That's a
The
whole...
rules and guidelines will be Tori's way.
That's right.
Tori's,
Will know Ben's way.
Tori's way to do Ben's way.
That's right.
Well, to the program, the program. So,
And my goal would be, let's find sponsors that are close to those schools.
sure.
GE Credit Union was kind enough to sponsor this at Loveland High School. Maybe we find some corporation that's close to the next school that we go to, and they want to sponsor it because they're associated with that school. It has meaning for them. Maybe not. Maybe, the Ben Morrison Fund may very well sponsor it at the next school, just to kind of get things off
Help
and
get it
running
launched.
and get it started, and then let someone come in the second year and sponsor it. So.
Well, and I want you to share, kind of a free commercial for GE Credit Union, a little bit of that story of getting them to come on board, because that was really kind of fascinating, how long you were working with them and what they are doing versus what they wouldn't do before.
Yeah, I worked with someone named Kelly, and you submit all these applications online for these places to give you funding, and most places just turn around and tell you no, or they send you money. It's like a yes or a no. That's all you get. And Kelly from GE Credit Union emailed me and said, "Look, we really like your mission. We like what you're doing. It's our policy not to do golf outings," which, as you know, is our biggest fundraiser, is the golf outing. And, she shared with me eventually, we talked for months through email, and she eventually shared with me the reason they don't like to do those kind of events is because some of their funding goes to the event itself as opposed to the actual organization or to the recipients. And I think that's probably true of some other organizations and why they don't, it's kind of opened my eye a little bit about that. But I remember in about the fourth or fifth email back and forth just telling her, hey, I just really want to thank you for not just coming back with a blanket no and trying to work with me to find something. Yeah. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that.
Sure.
Because so many people say no and don't give you a reason, or you never hear from them. And so we were back trying all the different, what events do you do? I'm telling her the events, and that doesn't really lead to having someone sponsoring it. We've got one coming up at the end of the month at Cappy's. That doesn't really need a sponsor,
Right.
Those kinds of things. And so finally, I don't know, my brain just clicked, and I was like, wait a minute, we have this new program we're starting. And I reached out to Kelly and I said, can we have a phone conversation? Because prior to that, we had all just been back and forth email.
Yeah.
And I thought, I just need to just, get her on the phone and tell her about this. And so I got her on the phone, told her about it, and she said, let me take it to the group and I'll get back to you. And I would say it was within a week.
Wow.
She was back to me, and she had a couple of questions of like how it was going to be presented. And obviously if they're giving $1,000, they want their name to be on there somewhere. They want
they just got a free mention here.
That's right.
And a good I think
right.
that's good background for others. Of course, maybe they don't want more people coming to them for money, but
right.
But obviously, it's a great story of how they were sincere in their effort to work with you because of the mission. So you've got a great mission. And that's a good segue into because I already said, I think you're a force to be reckoned with in suicide prevention, at least, and bringing that awareness. How do you describe the mission? I'm putting you on the spot because I don't think you have the website right in front of you.
No,
There's
I don't.
a mission statement, which, by the way, which also takes me back, Tori, because I know you were looking something up. Did you find what you were looking for?
Well, I did. It's just a bunch of little clips from, the scholarship applications.
Right.
If you had a problem with Ben, it was your problem. And that sums up Ben. Ben didn't have problems with people. He just, whether...
Yeah.
If he had an issue with someone, it was done and over with. This was not from a scholarship. This was a parent told their son the other day, reminded him to look after and be supportive of the underclassmen at lacrosse. And the son responded back, I always do that. Ben is the one who taught me how to do that. And just those kinds of things on the applications, and I can't find the rest of them right now, but just in there, even though he was an upperclassman, he always felt the need to include. He always, he never treated them any differently. I had a lot of them the one year saying, we really thought Ben was the senior when he was really just a junior because he behaved more like...
Yeah.
The person who would be helpful to them and always cheering them on. And
obviously he showed some pretty strong leadership qualities. I mean,
he was a quiet leader.
Right.
He was not going to be the flashy in your face.
Yeah.
But he was always going to be the one in the background there holding you up. Is how I envision him a lot.
That's good.
He was not going to be like if I saw him exhibit a celebration out on the field about something, I knew it was really big because that was not like him. He was not going to be one out there pumping his fist or jumping up in the air. And so the rare times I saw that, I just, as a parent, I knew that moment was special to him because it was so rare.
Well, I think what you just said clicked for me in terms of Ben's way is one more way to quietly, in the background, lift somebody up. In this case, because again, it's so easy to be critical and to find the things that people do wrong. Are you okay? The emotions are getting to Kate. I get it too because the tears well up on something. I mean, the story's about Ben's the one that taught me to do that, Mom. It's like, Mom, you don't have to remind me. Ben showed me. Yep. So Ben showed me the way. So Ben's way. But again, just what you said a moment ago, Tori, about lifting somebody up. Kind of quietly. And that's what Ben's Way is going to do. But recognizing people for good.
Yes.
And in school, we go back to our own experiences in school. We got singled out when we screwed up.
Yes. Very rarely do you get told when you're doing something good. And I applaud Kate because she didn't finish the story about the farm animals, the petting zoo that we brought in. She reached out to that mother. She found her on Facebook. She's not even friends with her. She found that mom on Facebook of that boy and made a point of telling that mom how wonderful her son was that day.
And apparently I wasn't the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And fast forward, he did get a Ben scholarship.
He did get a Ben scholarship.
He applied via lacrosse, and he wrote a beautiful scholarship. And Kate was so happy when she heard he was getting one. Because even though we have the board and they do read the scholarship applications, the family still decides the ultimate winners. If it comes down to, like I get their input and everything, but ultimately I still include the family in deciding the winners.
Perfect. Well, and a last note with the Ben Morrison Fund and the scholarships, because obviously we've talked about that and it's part of everything as well. Now, how many scholarships have you given out so far? It's only been
3 years.
I was going to say 3 years of scholarships.
21.
It's amazing.
She can't say no.
I can't. I can't.
Well, it's been hard because up until now, all the recipients have known Ben. So to hear those personal stories and how Ben has affected their life, where do you make the cutoff?
Yeah. Because they're personal stories. It won't be like that after this. There'll be more. I won't know the kids. I know the kids now, up until now.
Oh, I think you're going to keep knowing them. Because you're going to keep meeting new ones.
Well, that's true. That's true.
I'm sure of that.
She can't stay out of the school.
Well, why should she?
No.
As long as you can.
Yeah.
The fun part will be when you actually have to hand that over at other schools as they join the Ben'sWay program.
I hope it's fun for me.
Well, you know what? I think sitting here talking, at least the three of us, hope it happens.
I think it will. The 2 schools that I have in mind to start it at, I think will be all on board. I don't think we'll have any. Yeah.
I'm not going to make you name the school.
No, I don't want. Yeah, I haven't.
Shouldn't do that. But for people who want to know more, what's the website?
It is the Ben'sMorrisonFund.org.
Ben'sMorrisonFund.org.
Yes.
And that's 2 R's in Morrison.
Yes.
And Ben is BEN.
Yes.
So fund, just like you think, .org.
Yep.
I'll say something when I close about that too. Anything else that I didn't really touch on that you want to make sure you share about Ben'sWay specifically?
I don't think so. I don't think so either.
What's happening?
We're very excited about it.
No, we appreciate your time.
Well, keep us updated at the end of this month when you have that first Donut Friday. I'm really eager to see and hear what that was like for you to see the kids and their response.
Yeah,
we're excited too.
That's going to be kind of neat for sure. So
I'm sure it'll be on social media. We have Facebook and
Twitter and Instagram
as well. So
I'll try to share it out there via Loveland Beacon as well. But
thank you.
Tori Morrison, thank you again. And Kate Jackson, thank you for joining. It wasn't that bad. I know you were nervous. First round, we were just having a conversation.
Yep.
This is easy stuff. Well, listen, thank you both for joining us on Loveland Beacon Talks today. And I look forward to talking with you guys again.
Thank you.
This has been another edition of Loveland Beacon Talks with our guests, Ben Morrison Fund founder Tori Morrison, along with board member Kate Jackson, talking about the Ben'sWay initiative recently introduced at Loveland High School. You can learn more online at www.benmorrisonfund.org. If you or anyone you know is struggling with mental health or thoughts of suicide, please call or text 988. I'm Chuck Gibson saying thanks for listening here on Loveland Beacon Talks. Loveland Beacon Talks is a presentation of Loveland Beacon Digital Media and Gibson Communications, LLC.